If you're shopping for an affordable electric tricycle, the Lectric XP Trike and the RadTrike from Rad Power Bikes are two great options that you're likely going to consider. Both share many of the same features and a similar price point, so which of the two had the best performance in our series of standardized tests, and which of the two is best for you? Let's take a ride and find out. Welcome to Electric Bike Report, and sometimes Electric Trike Report. My name's John. I'm looking forward to helping you decide between these two trikes today, but first there are a couple things to mention up front. First, you might notice that this is actually our second time making this video. There were some big price changes in the industry right around the time we filmed the first one due to changes in tariffs, and that caused us to weigh things with these trikes a bit differently. Considering those changes, we decided to reshoot this video with the caveat that pricing can and likely will change again in the future. Just make sure to check current pricing using the link down in the video description. Second, it really does help us out a lot if you're subscribed to the channel, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. If you're shopping for an e-trike or e-bike and you're looking for the most comprehensive reviews to help you with your buying decision, we pride ourselves on being the best in the biz. And if we're able to help guide you toward one option or the other, please consider using that affiliate link in the video description when making your purchase. Commissions from sales help to support our channel, but using our link won't increase your cost, and we really appreciate your help in keeping new reviews and comparisons coming your way. So let's start things off by doing a quick run through of both trike specs and components for comparison. The Lectric XP Trike is priced at $14.99, and Lectric has strongly indicated that they won't be increasing their prices. This is a Class 2 electric trike with throttle and pedal assist up to 14 miles per hour. It has 5 levels of pedal assist, and it also has a beginner mode that allows you to start off with a 5 mile per hour speed limit in the low assist settings, or bump up to a top speed of 12 miles per hour in the higher assist levels once you're comfortable. The motor has 500 watts of nominal output, and it's technically a hub motor, but it's mounted centrally between the two rear wheels, and it's paired with an open differential axle so that both wheels get power. The motor uses a cadence sensor with current-based programming, so instead of having your speed capped in each assist setting, the assist levels just dictate how much force the motor kicks out. It also has a twist throttle that shares the same power levels and speeds as the assist settings. The trike has a 48-volt, 672 watt-hour battery behind the seat tube. There's a single-speed drivetrain with a 36-tooth chainring and a 16-tooth rear cog. The trike has front and rear hydraulic disc brakes with 180mm rotors. There's an alloy fork with no suspension, but there's an option to add a suspension seat post. The tires are 20 by 2.6 with a slightly knobby tread pattern. The trike has a central black and white LCD screen in the cockpit. It weighs 82 pounds with the battery and 75 without, and it has a standover height of 13.8 inches and a total payload capacity of 415 pounds. The XP Trike also includes front and rear fenders, a chain guard, an LED headlight, 2 tail lights that also serve as brake lights, and then at the time of filming, Lectric is throwing in a support seat that includes an adjustable backrest, but there are also a ton of optional accessories for carrying cargo, making the ride more comfortable, or just adding some personality. The RadTrike has a lot in common with the XP Trike, but also a lot that makes it stand out. It's priced at $16.99 at the time of filming, and like the XP, it's a Class 2 trike with a maximum speed of 14 miles per hour. It has a 750 watt front hub motor and a 48 volt, 480 watt hour battery on the down tube. It offers 5 levels of pedal assist and a twist throttle with a reverse throttle mode. The RadTrike has a single speed drivetrain with a 42-tooth chainring and a 16-tooth cog. It has a mechanical disc brake on the front wheel with a 180mm rotor, and in true trike fashion, it has a rear coaster brake activated by pushing backward on the pedals. There's a rigid steel fork with no current option on Rad's website for a suspension. The tires are 18 by 2.25 with a smooth street tread pattern. The left handlebar has a small display that shows the battery charge level and the current pedal assist setting, but there's no standard display with a speedometer. The RadTrike weighs 82 pounds with the battery and 73.5 without. It has a 13.4-inch standover height and a total payload capacity of 415 pounds. It also includes fenders with mud guards, a chain guard, an LED headlight, and a single tail light with brake light functionality, and then it comes standard with an adjustable saddle with a backrest. And of course, Rad also offers a ton of optional accessories, so you can make the trike more your own. That covers the basics for both trikes, so let's dive into our test results and see how the two stack up. Starting things off is our hill test at a location called Hellhole Trail, which is a paved path that's 1/3 of a mile long, and it has a super steep average grade of 12%. Our tester Justin tested both trikes there, so I'll pass you over to see how they both did with their throttle and when he pedaled in PAS 5.
All right, so now we're gonna do the Lectric Trike unlocked PAS 5 pedal test and see how this does. I'm expecting pretty decent results given I just climbed it pedaling with 100 pounds of weight. Bike definitely does feel lighter. So I'm right about 10 miles per hour through this hill here. Drop down to 9. So in this case, I'm really able to soft pedal. And I think it's gonna make it up pretty easily. So it'll be very cool to kind of see the results of this versus the beginner mode on it. I'll let you listen through this next segment here so you can hear the motor again without any weight and unlocked. So we got down to 8.6 miles an hour is all. So really solid through that segment. You can hear the motor does have a little bit of noise. But yeah, it's gonna have a good test result here. Oh. Here, on your left. So I had to slow down just for a second there to make that pass. But finishing nice and strong right at 12 miles per hour. Very easy to pedal up and climbs hills really well. All right, so now we're on the Lectric Trike throttle test with it being unlocked. This is the 4th test that I've done today on this. I have given the motor some time to cool off, but we're definitely pushing this to the max right now. It did not make it up with 100 pounds of weight on it. This has no weight. So we'll see right now through this section, doing fairly well. Kind of cruising around about 7 to 8 miles per hour. Looks like it's going to get down to about 7.3 is the low there. And so given how it did with all the weight, I'm expecting this to make it through as long as we didn't overheat this motor with all the testing we've done today. So I'm going to again be quiet through the section so you can hear what it sounds like with the throttle only through this last little, you know, kind of steep section right through here. So go down just about 6.8, 6.9. You hear the motor, but it's again still very quiet, kind of more of a low sound versus a high pitched sound. So sounds really nice. And it's starting to flash again and turn hot. Oh, we may not, it might be the same as last time. Let's see if we can make it. I'm holding my breath here. We're so close. Come on, trike. I bet I might be able to coast even if it kicks out. And we are going to make it. We did it. I'm definitely not having to pedal hard. And I'm not cruising by any means, but I'm really pedaling pretty light here. Having to put in some effort, but not much at all. I would say it's maybe slightly below average in terms of the amount of effort that I've got to put in. You can definitely hear that motor. But surprisingly doing fairly well, given what this thing is, and the front hub motor. We're gonna need to check how much torque this thing produces, because I made it up that section much easier than I thought. Last section, here we go. If it makes it up here, it's all the way. Made it like a champ. Now we're cruising. And made it.
So those were pretty interesting results, with both trikes being successful and each doing a little better in one half of the test. The XP Trike beat the RadTrike in the throttle test with a time of 1 minute and 51 seconds and an average of 9.8 miles per hour versus 1 minute and 56 seconds at 9.5 miles per hour. Things got flipped in the pedal test, where the RadTrike's time of 1 minute and 33 seconds and average of 11.3 miles per hour came out on top of the XP Trike's minute and 40 seconds and speed of 10.8 miles per hour. So the differences in time and speed were pretty minimal, but we think the XP was able to beat the Rad in the throttle test because of its higher peak motor wattage. Its motor tops out at 1,092 watts, while Rad's motor is limited at 750 watts, but we attribute the Rad's success in the pedal test to its higher torque rating. Outside of our formal test, we loaded up the cargo racks of both trikes to maximum capacity, and both were able to reach the top of some seriously intimidating hills. The bottom line is that both are good hill climbers, both with and without cargo. We had a similar situation with the two trikes in our range test, where we pedaled both in their highest and lowest pedal assist settings until their batteries were empty. The XP Trike gave us a low and high end bracket of 39.9 miles and 53.5 miles, while the RadTrike's results were 24.7 miles and 58.9 miles. So it's worth pointing out that we tested the XP Trike in its beginner mode setting with a 12 mile per hour max speed, so it's likely that helped to extend its mileage in the high power test, but either way, its results are pretty impressive. The RadTrike was able to go a little further than the XP in the low assist test, but we think the difference in mileage was small enough that most users won't notice much of a difference. Ultimately, based on our conversations with trike owners, we consider both trikes to have a practical amount of range for most uses, so we think they both did a solid job here. I tested both the XP Trike and the RadTrike out on the bike paths for our speed test. You can check out our full review for the XP Trike to see its beginner mode test, but let's go out and see how fast each of their 5 pedal assist settings can be in their normal riding modes. All right, so we are here on the Lectric XP Trike to do a speed test, and right now I'm pedaling with no motor assistance, which is not super easy, but we're sticking kind of right around 7.5 miles per hour here. Let's bump up to PAS 1 and see where that takes us. Now there's, a subtle boost from the motor there, just sort of takes the edge off of pedaling, but I'm definitely still able to contribute a lot to the ride. And let's see, it looks like we're kind of landing right around 8.5 miles per hour here. Let's bump up to PAS 2. And that's a really nice, smooth ride at this point with a bit more of a boost. And I am starting to ghost pedal here. I'm getting, above, right around 10 miles per hour is where that starts to happen. So we are sort of landing right around 11.5 miles per hour. Let's get around the curve actually. So right around 11 miles per hour, my bad. Let's jump up to PAS 3. And now I'm just entirely ghost pedaling here, which honestly I don't think is a bad thing here. You know, it's just a very casual experience. You don't necessarily have to be working, which is very nice. We're going right about 13 miles per hour here. Let's jump up to PAS 4. So there is a difference in the amperage for the controller here, but the speed is limited to 14 miles per hour in all settings when the bike is unlocked. And you know, I'm not really getting anything over 13 here. This says 13 and a half, but we're gonna go by this for consistency. So we're kind of right about the same, maybe a tenth of a degree higher, or a tenth of a mile per hour higher. Let's jump up to PAS 5. And really same thing, not a difference in feel. We are going right around 13 miles per hour still. So yeah, we'll call it there. All right, we are here for a speed test on the RadTrike, and I've got a little bit of a headwind going on, but I'm starting things off with no pedal assist, going pretty slow, right around 4.5 miles per hour or so. And you know, the goal of this is just to see what kind of a difference the pedal assist system makes. So actually getting up around 5 miles per hour, but I'm gonna kind of back off and hold it there just with this really light level of effort. Let's go up to PAS 1. So I can kind of hear the motor. There's a very low hum. Not really a whole lot happening as far as speed goes. I'd say, you know, it maybe feels a little bit easier to pedal, but pretty much the same here. So let's go up to PAS 2, see what difference that makes. And honestly, pretty similar feel. We're getting about a half mile per hour difference. You're up around 5.5 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and go up to PAS 3. Okay, that definitely kicked in and made a little bit more of an impact. So up to around 7 miles per hour. 6.5, 7, yeah. All right, let's go up to PAS 4. Oh boy, all right. There's definitely a little bit more of a boost. I'm still able to pedal actively, so I'm not ghost pedaling yet. And we're going around 10 miles per hour here, maybe a little bit above. And feeling super relaxed and easy at this point. Let's go and finish things off in PAS 5. Got another boost there. And oh, we hit 14 miles an hour. And then we're kind of settling back down. Kind of ghost pedaling now, so I'm not really able to contribute to the ride, but yeah, it seems like the average is maybe in the low 13s here, but that peak of 14 was possible. So all right, we will call it there and head back to the studio.
To recap those numbers, my starting speed on the XP Trike with no pedal assist was 7.8 miles per hour with some effort, and then the different assist levels brought me up to 8.7 miles per hour in PAS 1, 11.2 in PAS 2, 13.2 in PAS 3, 13.3 in PAS 4, and 13.4 miles per hour in PAS 5. In the RadTrike's test, I started off at a slightly more casual pace at 5 miles per hour with no pedal assist. I reached 5.4 in PAS 1, 5.5 in PAS 2, 7 miles per hour in PAS 3, 10.6 in PAS 4, and then 14 miles per hour in PAS 5 with a slightly slower cruising speed of around 13.3 miles per hour. Both trikes have cadence sensors, but this test highlighted one of their big differences in programming. The RadTrike had preset speed limits in each assist level, so in the high assist settings, the motor just kind of carried me up to speed, but the amount of power in the lower settings was low enough that pedaling felt really reserved and natural. The XP Trike uses a current-based system called PWR that limits power output, but not speed, so that gave it a bit more of a natural feeling in both its low and high assist settings. By the numbers, the RadTrike speeds were more evenly distributed in its higher assist settings, while the XP Trike looked a little better on the low end. We liked that the XP Trike had a beginner mode to help users get a feel for its handling, and if you choose to use the standard mode, PAS 1 through 3 seemed best for flat ground, while PAS 4 and 5 were better suited to hills or carrying cargo. And then with the RadTrike, we think Rad's approach was kind of a different route to the same destination. Their trike kind of incorporates a beginner mode into the 2 lowest assist levels, and we think most riders will likely stick to PAS 2, 3, and 4 once they're comfortable, and will likely save the extra power of PAS 5 for climbing hills. To test the trike's brakes, our tester Griffin pedaled up to top speed, which again is 14 miles per hour with both trikes, before applying the brakes, and then he measured how far each trike took to stop. We did this test 3 times each and then calculated an average. So the XP Trike's result was 13 feet 2 inches, and the RadTrike came out on top with a result of 10 feet 5 inches. So to go back to the specs section at the beginning of the review, the XP Trike has a full hydraulic brake system on both wheels, while the RadTrike has a mechanical disc system on the front wheel and a rear coaster brake. This combination was super effective for a couple reasons. First, that coaster brake had a lot of stopping power since it was controlled by leg pressure, and second, we think RadTrike's stopping distance was also helped out by the lower center of gravity from its smaller 18-inch wheels versus the XP Trike's larger 20-inch wheels. Personally, I actually preferred the XP Trike's more conventional setup. I didn't really grow up using coaster brakes, so the standard brake levers on the handlebars were more intuitive for me. But if you grew up with coaster brakes, or you're more comfortable with how they work, you might prefer the RadTrike over the XP. So now that we've gone through the Trike's test results, let's run through the 6 main categories that we boiled things down to for rating purposes. So the first is specs, which doesn't include the motor. Second is only the motor as a separate category that covers speed, engagement, and power. Third is hill climbing ability, which can differ enough that it's worth its own category. Fourth is range. Fifth is ride quality. And then sixth is overall value for the money. As a caveat, just keep in mind that in categories where one trike wins, that doesn't mean the other one is bad. There's just usually some small reason that one stood out over the other. Ultimately, both of these are great options, which is why we're comparing them. Starting off with specs, there was a lot that stood out on the XP Trike. It has a pretty big battery with 672 watt-hours of capacity versus the RadTrike's smaller 480 watt-hour battery. It has a more conventional hydraulic disc brake system that's a little more intuitive if you're used to standard bike brakes, and that includes dual parking brakes. The XP comes with a standard display with a speedometer, as opposed to the Rad's smaller handlebar-mounted unit that just shows PAS level and battery charge. It has knobby tires that are flexible enough to ride on very easy multi-use trails, which the RadTrike street tires aren't going to handle as well, and it has 2 taillights that are a bit more visible than the RadTrike's single light. The XP also has a folding frame that can break down in a matter of seconds, where the RadTrike is going to require tools and a bit more time to make it more portable. And to top it off, the XP has the same total payload capacity as the RadTrike, but its rear cargo rack can hold 15 pounds more, while its optional front rack can carry 5 pounds more than the Rad. On the RadTrike side, we found quite a few things to appreciate as well. The larger 42-tooth chainring didn't ghost pedal as quickly as the 36-tooth chainring on the XP. The coaster brake is a bit more traditional for a trike, so again, that might be a better fit if you're used to that style. The RadTrike has a reverse throttle function that most folks seem to really like on a trike since it helps a lot with maneuvering in tight spaces, whereas the XP does not have that. It also has a slightly wider chromoly steel frame instead of an aluminum frame, so it feels a little bit more stiff and solid, as well as a standard threadless stem that's a little sturdier than the more flexible telescoping stem on the XP. The Rad also has smaller 18-inch wheels that keep its center of gravity lower than the XP Trike's 20-inch wheels, and it has a lower standover height by about 3/8 of an inch. This one was pretty tough to decide on a winner. We felt that both trikes were pretty well balanced in what they offered, even if those things differed a bit. The RadTrike's brakes are technically better, but we gave this category to Lectric in the end, primarily because of its full-size display, its greater cargo capacity, and the fact that it folds and is therefore a bit more portable. Next is the motor category. So the XP Trike has that 500-watt hub motor that's mounted between the rear wheels. It peaks at 1,092 watts and has a torque output of 65 Newton meters. It was quick to engage and it proved to be pretty powerful in our testing. We really liked the more natural feel that came from the central motor placement. This setup gave the XP almost the feel of a mid-drive motor without the extra cost. Paired with a differential axle, this is a really creative solution that allows both rear wheels to get power instead of just one, so the XP ends up with a bit better traction. And then with Lectric's PWR programming and a beginner mode, the XP has different speed settings for new and experienced riders. It has generally 3 practical pedal assist settings for flat ground, and then 2 higher power modes for going uphill or carrying cargo, and it has a throttle with the same speeds and power levels as the pedal assist system, so it's easy to keep the throttle at a slower speed if you don't want to go all the way up to the trike's maximum. On the other hand, the RadTrike 750 watt front hub also has plenty of power and quick engagement. It doesn't peak above 750 watts, but it has a higher torque rating with 85 Newton meters, so it feels a little peppier than the XP's motor. The Rad's low assist settings kind of act like the XP's beginner mode with a pretty reserved feel, while its higher settings are a bit more powerful and spread out, so it also has 3 practical power levels for flat ground and then 1 or 2 higher power modes. And then of course it also has that reverse throttle function. Overall, both trikes feel pretty similar, and the Rad's reverse throttle was almost enough to sway us, but we chose the Lectric in this category primarily because of its more natural feel and better traction that came from its motor placement. For the hill climbing category, we're mostly just going back to the results of our hill test, where things were pretty balanced. On the XP Trike side, it won by a couple of seconds when Justin tested its throttle at Hellhole. Its motor has a higher peak wattage than the RadTrike, so that seemed to offset the Rad's higher torque rating. And then when we loaded the XP up with weight and tested it on hills, it wasn't the fastest, but it definitely had the low-end power to handle normal hills, and maybe even some that are on the more extreme side. With the RadTrike, it beat the XP in the pedal portion of our hill test, once again only by a few seconds, but its motor's higher torque rating seemed to make more of a difference when the trike was helped out by a bit of elbow grease, or I guess knee grease, and then when we tested both trikes at our secondary spot called Pilot Hill, the Rad was faster in both tests when we loaded it up with cargo. Even in my personal experience, the 2 trikes felt extremely similar, both with their cargo racks fully loaded and with no extra weight. We decided that this category was a tie between the XP and the Rad since each had a slight lead in different places, but the differences were pretty minimal by the numbers. Ultimately, their motors are apples and oranges, but the end result is pretty much the same when it comes to hills. For range, this again goes back to our testing. The XP Trike went roughly 15 miles further than the RadTrike in the PAS5 range test, and while we did test that in its slower beginner mode setting, we don't expect that our results would be a whole lot different in the normal riding mode. A minimum of 40 miles of range is pretty impressive considering that most of the riders we've talked to go around 10 to 12 miles in a single trip. And if you're riding in the lower assist levels, there's plenty of room for even more miles. On the other side, we should consider that the RadTrike beat the XP by a few miles in the low power test, so with a maximum of just under 60 miles on a single charge, technically it can go the greatest number of miles. Ultimately, we gave this category to the XP Trike since there wasn't a ton of difference between the 2 in the low power test. We expect most riders to use a higher level of pedal assist, so we think the XP Trike deserves the win since it had a significant lead in that portion of our test. Ride quality is a lot more subjective than the other test sections we discussed, but no less important. With the XP Trike, I already mentioned a lot of things we really liked, but the side effects of its motor placement were probably the most notable, with those being its more natural pedal feel and better traction. A few other things stood out, including the XP's user-friendly throttle control, its beginner mode, and the fact that it has a standard display. And lastly, we also found it really easy to fold and load up in a vehicle. The RadTrike, on the other hand, felt slightly more stable and solid because of its steel frame, its slightly wider rear wheels, and the lower center of gravity from its smaller wheels. It also had a bit of a roomier fit with a slightly more relaxed seating position and pedaling position, and the BMX-style handlebars allowed us to really dial in the reach, where that was something that wasn't adjustable on the XP. And again, we also like the Rad's reverse throttle function as well as its general ease of use. There was a lot to love about the XP Trike, but we gave this category to the RadTrike as we found it just a little more comfortable overall. The Rad's traction wasn't quite as good as the Lectric's, but 9 times out of 10 that wasn't all that noticeable, whereas the Rad's stability and its more relaxed positioning were both really big components of its ride. Finally, value for the money. Now, it's important to keep in mind here that prices change often, and we've seen everything from $100 of difference between these trikes up to about $1,000, so we're basing our decision on prices at the time of filming, and those show a $200 difference. The XP Trike is the cheaper of the two models. It has a higher battery capacity, it has a motor that's pretty close in power to the Rad's, and it folds. It has the same total weight capacity, it has lights, fenders, hydraulic brakes, a throttle with different power levels, and it has 5 levels of pedal assist. The RadTrike has pretty much all the same features and accessories with a couple of differences. It has the reverse throttle function, it has a comfier feel, and it does have a slightly more powerful motor, but it also comes with a slightly higher price tag. This one was pretty clear. There are some minor trade-offs between the two, and we really liked what the RadTrike brings to the table, but we think the XP Trike offers the best value. Yes, there is a difference in how the trikes feel and what features they offer, but the differences aren't big enough to make us want to spend the extra money. Now that we've gone through all the nitty-gritty details, let's wrap things up and find out which trike is the best overall. Before we choose a winner though, let's recap what we've learned so far and then see if one stands out over the other. In our 6 comparison categories, the trikes tied in the hill climbing section. The XP Trike took the win in specs, motor, range, and value for the money. That left the RadTrike with the win in the ride quality category. As we see it, both the XP Trike and the RadTrike have their place, and we really liked both options, but at the end of the day, we're data driven, and the lines are pretty clear. The XP Trike proved that it is the better option, with 5 wins compared to the RadTrike's 2. Now, there are a few reasons that you might consider the RadTrike over the XP. Its standout features were its riding position, its lower center of gravity, its more rigid frame, and its reverse throttle function. It might be a better fit for you if you prefer a bit more space and comfort, and you might also go this route if you want the lowest possible standover height. But to go back to the XP Trike, it had a handful of strengths that the RadTrike did not. We preferred how it felt to pedal because of its motor placement. We liked that it offered both a beginner mode with a couple of safer and slower speed options, as well as easy control over its throttle speed through the pedal assist setting. We were also really happy with its overall portability and how quickly its frame can fold down. The XP is likely going to be the best option for you if you're trying to get the most bang for the buck, if you want the ability to easily store or transport your trike without a special car rack, or if you're looking for something that pedals a little bit more naturally. If you want a bit more info on each of these trikes, we'll leave links to our full reviews in the video description, along with a link to both trikes' web pages. And if you're feeling like you've made a decision, again, please use our affiliate link. It really does make a huge difference. And please also consider giving this video a like so YouTube knows to share it with a wider audience. Drop us a line in the comments section if you have any thoughts or questions, but thanks for taking a ride with me today. Again, I'm John with Lectric Bike Report, and this was the Lectric XP Trike versus the Rad Power Bikes RadTrike.